KPIs are only about financials, so not relevant to all departments. That is absolutely not true, and I'm going to talk you through why that is. Hello and welcome to Engage and Thrive, also known as EAT, your coffee catch-up with me, your host, Taelon, where we will go through common problems and hurdles that come up in business, marketing and advertising and try and demystify them. I know firsthand how complicated and confusing it can seem with all the different acronyms and all the things to do in business. So let me try and help you be better in business. First things first, let's start with grabbing a coffee. Okay, this one's interesting because, KPIs, people always perceive as being a financial metric that you need to have. But actually, it's probably one of the most important things to think about, having KPIs set for internal and external. So to myth busters, this can be anything from your customer satisfaction scores to your employee engagement to building awareness, which all obviously could lead into lead generation and sales for your business. But the whole point is that a KPI can be so many different things and doesn't, and not necessarily should, only relate to financials. There's so many other things to measure as a business that are really important, which aren't the financials. That's just one key component. As always, our vocab. So the first one, obvious one, is a KPI, which is your key performance indicator. Next one is ROI, and you'll hear me say that over and over again in many episodes, which is return on investment. Next one, which you'll hear probably in lots of different contexts, is SMART. So people talk about SMART objectives, SMART goals, but what does SMART actually stand for? It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relatable, and time-bound or time frame. The next one is OKR, objective and key results. Then you have your CSAT, which is your customer satisfaction score, and your ESAT, which is your employee satisfaction score. So to loop those last two back round when I was talking about internal and external KPIs that you may want to set, those are interesting ones to think about of how you want to keep a score from your customers and keeping a score from your employees. Okay, today we're going to have 4 key tactics about KPIs. The first one, number 1, is define. So defining your KPIs. Your KPIs should actually be coming from your business objectives, your business mission, your business goals, and then you break it down. So what does that actually mean? Is it a short-term goal? Is it a long-term? You may have certain KPIs that are monthly KPIs, and then you have other KPIs which are annual KPIs. But if you want to think about a sales KPI of increasing sales, then are you talking about your monthly growth? Are you talking about your revenue, or are you talking about your customer acquisition cost? This is all defining what you mean as a KPI. Number 2, SMART. So obviously covered SMART off in the vocab, but this is really where you get into it. So how do you actually measure and make each KPI SMART? So if you're talking about your sales, for example, is it that you want to increase your sales revenue by 10% month on month? If it's that you want to increase engagement on your social media platforms, okay, so what does that mean? How do you classify engagement? Is it based on likes? Is it based on how many people send your posts? Is it based on messages that you receive? How many of those do you want to get a month? Quantify that. Do you want to get 100 engagements per month, or do you want to get a percentage increase? The other thing to think about with the SMART part of it is the time frame. So yes, do you want it to be within 1 month that you're increasing those KPIs? Or is it that your time frame is over a year? So we want to grow our mailing list to 5,000 people by the end of the year. What is it now and where are you getting to? If your mailing list right now is 10 people and you want to get to 5,000 by the end of the year, that's a pretty chunky KPI. So again, is that achievable? Can that actually be done if you break it down? If we're thinking about, okay, you've only got 5 months left of the year, what's your strategy around it? All of that. So that kind of feeds into how you set that KPI. Is it SMART? Number 3, monitor. So you should be regularly monitoring and reviewing these KPIs. You may as a team decide you want to report on them as a monthly report or a weekly report or whatever it is and how it is, which you would have defined at the beginning how and when you want to report on it. But the thing also to mention on monitoring is knowing how close or far away you are from them. Sometimes you may set a KPI which is a massive ambition and it's too far removed. So as a business, why bother, and rather review it each quarter and be like, okay, cool, are we still on track, or how do we need to tweak this and refine this? There's also tools and software that you may want to put in place to help you monitor the KPIs. So if it was your website that you're looking to increase your traffic, it'd be Google Analytics. If you have, all your social metrics, you may have Tableau or other live dashboards that you're pulling in that data to monitor your engagements and your likes and your mentions. If you're doing your customer feedback, so how are you capturing your feedback surveys? If it's about your mailing list, is it, MailChimp? If it's employee satisfaction, how are you getting those leaving responses or forms or feedback? Whatever it is, you need to set those metrics to around how you're going to monitor it and regularly tap into it. So this is really important as well, to make sure that you are reviewing and refining these KPIs to make sure that they're worthwhile having and they're still smart. And finally, number 4, which is align. The reason why I'm saying align is because, again, going back to the misconception about KPIs being financial, it's making sure that everyone that is working towards that goal or that KPI is aligned on what it means, how it's going to be measured, when it's due by, or what's the time frame you're putting around it, when are any updates going to happen for it, and making sure that it's transparent across the business. So if, for example, marketing are working on one KPI about the website and conversion, what are the sales team doing? What feedback are they giving? And how are they, feeding into that KPI or understanding the performance of that KPI and then the big impact of that as a business? Or if it's HR and they're looking after the employees and the employee feedback, how are they feeding that back into those departments and those teams? Because there could be a certain department or a certain team that has a higher turnover that's actually impacting the overarching company KPI. So it's really important to make sure everyone is aligned on those KPIs. And to be honest, incorporating those KPIs as part of your everyday. So is it a part of your weekly stand-ups that you have as a team or your monthly reports? And if this isn't necessarily something that you're doing as a business KPI, it may also be that you are an agency with KPIs set for delivering for your client, which again, there should be some kind of alignment of what you're calling what, a spade, or apples and pears, however you want to do with that situation. So ultimately, the final point about KPIs is don't be scared of KPIs, and that KPIs aren't only about financials. KPIs will actually help drive your business forward and potentially bring teams closer together because you're driving towards that one goal, that one ambition, that one focus, or 3 focuses, or 5 KPIs, whatever it is. But thank you for joining me for another week of Engage and Thrive with the host, Taelon, and see you next Thursday.